The dust kicked up around Emma Grayson's worn boots as she collapsed to her knees in the middle of the empty prairie. Her hands clasped so tightly together that her knuckles turned white as bone. It was August 1878, and the Nebraska sun beat down mercilessly on her bent head as tears streamed down her sunburned cheeks, mixing with the dirt that seemed permanently embedded in her skin these days. She had walked for 3 days straight from Pendleton, leaving behind a town that held nothing but painful memories and empty promises, hoping to reach her aunt's homestead near North Platte. But somewhere along the way she had gotten turned around, lost her bearings, and now she was certain she would die out here alone. "Please," she whispered hoarsely, her voice cracking from thirst and desperation. "Please, I know I have not been the most faithful servant. I know I have questioned and doubted, but please, if you are listening, if you care at all about one lost soul in this vast wilderness, please send me help. Send me anything, anyone. Just please do not let me die out here like this." Emma was 22 years old, though the hardships of the past year had aged her beyond those years. Her parents had died in a house fire the previous winter. Her younger brother succumbed to fever just months later, and the man she had been engaged to marry had abandoned her when he realized she had no inheritance left, no property, nothing but debts and grief. She had been working at the general store in Pendleton, saving every penny to make the journey north to her only remaining relative, her mother's sister, who had married a cattle rancher and moved away before Emma was even born. The letter she had received months ago had been kind, welcoming, offering her a home and a fresh start, but Emma had needed time to settle her family's affairs, to say goodbye to the only place she had ever known. Now she wondered if she would ever see another human face again. Her water had run out yesterday morning. The small amount of food she had packed was long gone. She had thought she could make the journey in 4 days, walking steadily, following the landmarks she had been told about. But everything looked the same out here in this endless sea of grass, and the heat made her dizzy and confused. She stayed on her knees, praying silently now because her throat hurt too much to speak, and that was when she heard it. The sound of hoofbeats, steady and sure, coming from somewhere behind her. Emma's eyes flew open and she tried to stand, but her legs buckled beneath her. She managed to turn her head, squinting against the bright sunlight, and saw a figure on horseback approaching across the prairie. For a moment she thought perhaps she was hallucinating, that her desperate mind had conjured this vision of rescue, but the horse and rider kept coming closer, became more solid and real. And then the man was pulling his horse to a stop just a few feet away from where she knelt. "Madam." The voice was deep, concerned, and utterly real. "Madam, are you hurt?" Emma tried to answer but only managed a small croak. The man dismounted quickly, his boots hitting the ground with a solid thud, and then he was kneeling beside her, one hand gently touching her shoulder. "When did you last have water?" he asked, and Emma could see him now more clearly. He was tall, broad-shouldered, probably close to 30 years old, with dark hair that curled slightly at the edges beneath his worn hat and eyes that were a striking shade of green. His face was tanned from years in the sun, with lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often, though right now his expression was nothing but serious concern. "Yesterday," Emma managed to whisper. "Morning." The man cursed softly under his breath and immediately reached for the canteen hanging from his saddle. He uncorked it and brought it to her lips. "Slow sips now," he instructed. "I know you want to gulp it down, but slow sips or you will make yourself sick." Emma obeyed, though it took every ounce of willpower she possessed not to grab the canteen and drain it. The water was warm, but it was the most beautiful thing she had ever tasted. After a few sips, the man pulled the canteen back. More in a minute, he said. Let that settle first. What are you doing out here alone? Where is your horse, your wagon? Walking, Emma said, her voice already sounding a bit stronger. To North Platte, my aunt's ranch, got lost. The man's green eyes widened. You were walking to North Platte. That is still nearly 40 miles from here. You came from Pendleton, Emma nodded weakly. On foot, alone. He shook his head in disbelief. Madam, forgive me for saying so, but that was incredibly dangerous. You could have died out here. Had no choice, Emma said. No money for a horse or passage on a wagon, had to walk. The man studied her face for a long moment, and Emma saw something shift in his expression, the judgment fading into sympathy. Well, you are lucky I came along, or perhaps lucky is not the right word. Blessed, maybe. I was checking fence lines on the far edge of my property. I do not usually ride out this far. Your property? Emma asked. My ranch starts about 2 miles east of here, he said. He held out his hand formally, despite the unusual circumstances. Austin Hayes. I run cattle on about 3,000 acres, though I am always hoping to expand. Emma took his hand, feeling the calluses that spoke of hard work, the strength in his grip that was tempered with gentleness. Emma Grayson, and I think you might be the answer to a prayer. Austin smiled then, and it transformed his whole face, made him look younger and infinitely kinder. Well, Miss Grayson, I am happy to be of service to the Almighty. Now, let us get you somewhere safe and get some proper food and water into you. Can you stand if I help you? With Austin's strong arm supporting her, Emma managed to get to her feet, though the world swayed alarmingly around her. Without hesitation, Austin swept her up into his arms as though she weighed nothing at all. I can walk, Emma protested weakly. Not 40 miles you cannot, Austin said, and not even 40 feet in your current condition. My horse is strong enough to carry us both to my ranch, and that is exactly what we are going to do. He lifted her onto his horse, a beautiful chestnut mare with a white star on her forehead, and then swung up behind her. His arms came around her to hold the reins, and Emma found herself leaning back against his solid chest, too exhausted to maintain her pride or proper distance. Thank you, she whispered. No thanks needed, Austin replied, his voice rumbling in his chest right behind her ear. Out here, we help each other. It is just what people do. The ride to Austin's ranch took about half an hour, and Emma drifted in and out of awareness for most of it. She registered the feeling of safety, of being held securely, of the steady rhythm of the horse beneath them and Austin's calm presence behind her. When they finally arrived, she opened her eyes to see a substantial ranch house made of wood with a wide porch wrapped around the front, a large barn painted red, several other outbuildings and corrals containing horses and cattle. This is your ranch? Emma asked, struggling to sit up straighter. It is, Austin said, and she could hear the pride in his voice. Built it myself over the past 8 years. Well, myself and the men who work for me. I have 4 ranch hands who help with the cattle and the horses. We run about 500 head right now. He dismounted and then lifted Emma down carefully, but when her feet touched the ground her knees buckled again. Austin caught her easily and once more picked her up in his arms. I am sorry, Emma said, feeling tears of frustration prick at her eyes. I am not usually so weak and helpless. You have been walking across the prairie for 3 days with no food or water, Austin said firmly. You are not weak or helpless. You are incredibly strong to have made it as far as you did. Now stop apologizing and let me help you. He carried her up the porch steps and into the house, calling out as he entered. Mrs. Chen, are you here? A small, round woman with graying black hair and a kind face appeared from what looked like the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She took one look at Emma in Austin's arms and immediately began speaking rapidly. "What happened? Who is this? Is she hurt? Bring her to the spare bedroom right now. I will get water and food." "Found her collapsed on the prairie," Austin explained as he followed Mrs. Chen down a hallway. "She has been walking for 3 days from Pendleton, trying to reach her aunt's ranch near North Platte. She got lost and ran out of supplies." Mrs. Chen made a tusking sound. "Alone. A young woman alone. This is not safe at all, but she is here now and we will take care of her. Put her on the bed, gently now." Austin laid Emma down on a soft bed covered with a colorful quilt, and it felt like the most luxurious thing in the world after 3 nights sleeping on the hard ground. Mrs. Chen immediately began fussing over her, removing her dusty boots, bringing cool water and clean cloths to wipe her face and hands. "I will make broth," Mrs. Chen declared. "Her stomach will not handle heavy food yet. And you," she pointed at Austin, "you go and let me tend to her. She needs privacy and rest." Austin nodded and backed toward the door, but his eyes lingered on Emma with an expression she could not quite read. "I will check on you later, Miss Grayson. You are safe here. Rest and recover." Over the next 3 days, Emma did exactly that. Mrs. Chen, who insisted Emma call her by her first name, May, proved to be an excellent and attentive caretaker. She brought broth that gradually became heartier stews, fresh bread with butter, cool water, and later hot tea. She helped Emma bathe and provided her with clean clothes, a simple cotton dress that May said had belonged to her daughter who had grown out of it. "My daughter married and moved to California," May explained as she brushed Emma's long blonde hair, working out the tangles gently. "She is very happy there with her husband and their 2 children. I miss her very much, but I write letters every week." Emma learned that May had been Austin's housekeeper for 5 years, ever since her own husband died and left her without means of support. Austin had hired her immediately, despite having no real need for a housekeeper when he had been living alone, and he paid her well and treated her with respect and kindness. "He is a good man," May said firmly. "The best man I know. He works hard. He treats his ranch hands fairly, he helps his neighbors, and he never complains even when things are difficult. This ranch was nothing but empty land when he got here 8 years ago. He built everything you see with his own 2 hands and the help of good men he hired. He deserves to be happy." "He is not married?" Emma asked, trying to sound casual. May shook her head. "No wife, no children. He was engaged once 6 years ago to a woman from Omaha. She came to visit the ranch and decided she could not live this life. Too isolated, too hard, not refined enough for her tastes. She broke his heart, but he just worked harder, focused on making the ranch successful. He does not go into town often, does not socialize much. I worry about him being lonely." Emma thought about this as she grew stronger. Austin came to check on her every evening after his work was done, knocking politely and asking permission to enter. He would sit in the chair near the bed and ask how she was feeling, tell her about his day, listen if she wanted to talk. He had a quiet, steady presence that made Emma feel safe in a way she had not felt since before her parents died. On the 4th day, Emma felt well enough to leave the bedroom. She found Austin and May in the kitchen having breakfast, and both of them stood when she entered. "Miss Grayson," Austin said, pulling out a chair for her, "you look much better. How do you feel?" "Much better, thanks to both of you," Emma said, sitting down gratefully. "I feel like I owe you my life, Mr. Hayes." "Austin, please," he said, "and you owe me nothing. I am just glad I found you when I did." May set a plate of eggs and bacon in front of Emma along with fresh bread and jam. Emma ate slowly, savoring every bite, aware of Austin's eyes on her. When she looked up, he looked away quickly, a faint color rising in his cheeks. I should send a telegram to my aunt, Emma said. She will be worried when I do not arrive, but I have no money to pay for it. I will take care of it, Austin said immediately. We can ride into Pendleton today if you feel up to it. It is about 10 miles from here. You can send your telegram and let your aunt know you are safe. I cannot keep accepting your charity, Emma protested. You have already done so much. Austin leaned forward, his green eyes intense. Miss Grayson, Emma, if I may call you that, please understand something. What I did was not charity. It was basic human decency, and honestly, it was my privilege. You are a guest in my home, and I will not have you worrying about money or debts. Send your telegram. Rest and recover fully, and then we can figure out how to get you safely to your aunt's ranch. Emma felt tears sting her eyes, overwhelmed by his kindness. Why are you being so good to me? You do not even know me. Austin was quiet for a moment, and then he said softly, Maybe I would like to know you. The air between them seemed to shift, to become charged with something Emma could not quite name but could definitely feel. May cleared her throat loudly and began gathering plates with a knowing smile on her face. Later that morning, after Emma had changed into the nicest dress May had provided, Austin helped her onto his horse and they rode together toward Pendleton. It was the same position they had been in when he first rescued her, with Emma sitting in front and Austin's arms around her holding the reins. But now, Emma was fully conscious and acutely aware of every point where their bodies touched, of the warmth of him behind her, of the way his breath stirred the hair near her ear when he spoke. Tell me about your aunt, Austin said as they rode. What is her name? What is her husband's ranch like? Her name is Margaret Patterson, Emma said. I have not seen her since I was very small, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She came to visit us once, but then she married and moved away and we only exchanged letters after that. She wrote to me after my parents died, offering me a home, but I was waiting for a few things to be settled first. Her husband runs cattle too, I believe. She said they have a successful ranch. Patterson, Austin repeated thoughtfully. I know the name. If I am thinking of the right ranch, it is a good operation. They run maybe 2,000 head. Thomas Patterson is known as a fair man, honest in his business dealings. That is good to know, Emma said. I was worried I might be going from one bad situation to another, but I truly had nowhere else to turn. What happened in Pendleton? Austin asked gently. You do not have to tell me if you do not want to, but sometimes it helps to talk about things. Emma took a deep breath and found herself telling him everything. About her parents dying, her brother's illness, the debts that consumed their small house and every possession they had owned, about her former fiancé who had promised to stand by her, but disappeared the moment he realized she had nothing left to offer him financially. About working at the general store for months, saving every penny, enduring the pitying looks and whispered gossip of people who had once been her friends and neighbors. Austin listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, his voice rough with emotion, The man who left you was a fool, and I am sorry you had to go through all of that. But I am not sorry your path led you to my land, to me finding you. Does that make me selfish? Emma twisted slightly to look back at him and found his face much closer than she had expected. No, she whispered. It does not make you selfish, because I am not sorry either. They stared at each other for a long moment, and Emma thought he might kiss her right then. But instead Austin cleared his throat and looked away, focusing on the path ahead. When they reached Pendleton, Emma was struck by how different the town looked now. She had left here just days ago feeling like a failure, like someone fleeing in shame. But now she was returning as a guest of Austin Hayes, who seemed to be well known and respected. People nodded to him on the street, called out greetings, and looked at Emma with open curiosity, but also with a certain courtesy they afforded her simply because she was with him. At the telegraph office, Austin insisted on paying for her message. Emma kept it simple, telling her Aunt Margaret that she had been delayed but was safe and recovering at the Hayes Ranch, and would send word soon about when she would arrive. As they left the telegraph office, a man approached them on the boardwalk. He was about Austin's age, well dressed in a suit that looked expensive, with slicked back hair and a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Hayes," the man said, "I heard you found yourself astray on your property." Austin's expression went cold. "I found a young woman in distress and offered assistance, if that is what you mean. Miss Grayson, this is Walter Turner. He owns the bank here in Pendleton." Emma nodded politely, but something about Turner made her skin crawl. He was looking at her with an assessing gaze that felt invasive. "Miss Grayson," Turner said, "I remember you. You worked at the general store. I heard about your family's misfortunes. Tragic, truly tragic." "Thank you," Emma said coolly. "I also heard you were engaged to Dennis Morgan," Turner continued, "but that did not work out, did it? He married the Williams girl last month. Quite a wedding." Emma felt the words like a slap, felt the old humiliation rising up, but before she could respond, Austin stepped slightly in front of her, his body language protective. "Miss Grayson's personal business is none of your concern, Turner," Austin said, his voice hard. "And you will speak to her with respect or not at all." Turner held up his hands in mock surrender. "No offense intended, Hayes, just making conversation. You know, if you are looking for company, there are plenty of suitable women in town. The Miller girl has been asking after you." "I am not interested in the Miller girl," Austin said flatly, "and I am perfectly happy with the company I have. Now, if you will excuse us." He took Emma's arm and guided her away, but not before she saw the flash of anger in Turner's eyes. As they walked back toward where Austin had tied his horse, Emma said quietly, "I am sorry. I did not mean to cause problems for you." "You did not cause anything," Austin said. "Turner has been trying to buy my land for years. I keep refusing, so he does not like me much. And he seems to think he has some kind of authority to comment on my personal life, which he does not." "The Miller girl?" Emma asked before she could stop herself. Austin stopped walking and turned to face her. "I have no interest in the Miller girl or any other girl in town. They are nice enough, I suppose, but they are not what I am looking for, or rather, not who I am looking for." "And who are you looking for?" Emma asked, her heart beating faster. Austin looked at her for a long moment, his green eyes searching her face. "I am starting to think she found me instead of the other way around." They rode back to the ranch in a charged silence, neither of them speaking but both hyper-aware of each other. When they arrived, Austin helped Emma down from the horse, and their hands lingered together for a moment longer than necessary. Over the next week, Emma grew stronger and also grew closer to Austin. She insisted on helping around the ranch, despite his protests that she was a guest and should rest. She helped May with cooking and cleaning. She fed the chickens and gathered eggs. She even learned how to milk the cow they kept for fresh dairy. Austin taught her how to ride a horse properly, patient and encouraging as she learned, his hands steadying her when she wobbled, his voice praising her when she got it right. The ranch hands accepted her presence with friendly courtesy. There was Sam, a grizzled older man who had been a cowboy all his life. Jacob and James, twin brothers in their early 20s who were quick to laugh and always willing to help. And Miguel, a quiet man in his 30s who was brilliant with horses and could calm even the most skittish animal with a few soft words. Emma found herself settling into the rhythm of ranch life. Waking early to help May prepare breakfast for everyone, spending her days doing chores and learning new skills, eating dinner with Austin and whoever was around, spending her evenings on the porch watching the sunset paint the prairie in shades of gold and crimson. And through it all, there was Austin, always nearby, always watching her with those intense green eyes, always finding excuses to be near her, to help her, to talk with her. One evening, about 2 weeks after Emma had arrived, she was sitting on the porch steps after dinner, enjoying the cool breeze that had finally brought relief from the summer heat. Austin came and sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "I received word today from your aunt," Austin said. "She was very relieved to hear you are safe. She said to tell you that you are welcome to stay here as long as you need to recover, and when you are ready, she and her husband will come to collect you, or I can bring you to their ranch myself." Emma's stomach dropped. She had known this was coming, had known that she could not stay here indefinitely, but the thought of leaving Austin made her feel hollow inside. "That is very kind of her," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. "And kind of you as well. I suppose I should start making plans to go soon. I have imposed on your hospitality long enough." "You have not been imposing," Austin said firmly. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "Emma, I need to say something to you, and I hope you will hear me out before you respond." Emma turned to look at him, her heart pounding. "Of course." Austin took a deep breath. "I know we have only known each other for 2 weeks. I know that is not very long, and I know you have been through a terrible ordeal and maybe your emotions are confused because I helped you. I have thought about all of that, believe me. But I also know what I feel, and I have never been the kind of man to hide from the truth or avoid saying what needs to be said." He reached out and took her hand, his calloused fingers warm against hers. "Emma, these past 2 weeks have been the happiest I have had in years. Maybe ever. Having you here, seeing you every day, talking with you, teaching you things, watching you become part of this place, it has felt right in a way I cannot fully explain. I know it is too soon. I know I should wait longer, court you properly, but I am terrified that if you leave, if you go to your aunt's ranch, I will lose you. So I am just going to say it plain. I have feelings for you, strong feelings. And I would like the chance to see where those feelings might lead." Emma felt tears filling her eyes, but they were happy tears. "Austin, I have feelings for you too. I have been trying to tell myself I should not, that it is too soon, that I am just grateful to you for saving my life, but it is more than that. So much more. When I think about leaving here, about not seeing you every day, it makes me feel like I cannot breathe." Austin's face broke into the most beautiful smile Emma had ever seen. He raised his free hand and gently cupped her cheek, wiping away a tear with his thumb. "Then do not leave. Not yet anyway, stay. Give us time to figure out what this is between us. Your aunt will understand. And if she does not, well, you are an adult and can make your own choices." "I want to stay," Emma whispered. "I want to see where this leads." Austin leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, but Emma did not want to. She met him halfway, and when their lips touched, it was soft and sweet and perfect. The kiss was brief, almost chaste, but it held a promise of more to come. From that moment, everything shifted. Austin began courting Emma properly, even though they were living under the same roof. He brought her wildflowers he picked on his rides around the ranch. He taught her to shoot a rifle so she would be able to protect herself if needed. They went on picnics, riding out to beautiful spots on his property where they would spread a blanket and eat the lunch May had packed for them, talking for hours about their pasts, their dreams, their hopes for the future. Emma learned that Austin had grown up in Missouri, the youngest of 5 children. His father had been a farmer, but Austin had always wanted more than the small plot of land his family worked. After his father died, his mother had divided the farm among Austin's older brothers, and Austin had taken his small inheritance and headed west, determined to build something of his own. He had worked on other people's ranches for years, saving every penny, learning everything he could, until he had enough money to buy his own land. It was hard at first, Austin told her one afternoon as they rode together along the creek that ran through his property. I lived in a tent for the first year while I built the barn and the bunkhouse. I did not build the main house until year 3. There were times I thought I had made a terrible mistake, that I should have stayed in Missouri and been content with a smaller life. But I kept working, kept pushing forward, and eventually things started to come together. I am glad you did not give up, Emma said. Otherwise you would not have been here to find me. Austin reached over and took her hand, their horses walking close together. I think maybe you were meant to find me too. Like God knew we both needed each other. As summer turned to autumn, Emma and Austin became inseparable. May watched them with approval, often shooing them out of the house so they could have time alone together. The ranch hands teased Austin good-naturedly about being in love, and he did not deny it. He was in love, deeply and completely, and he was not ashamed of it. One evening in late September, Austin asked Emma to take a walk with him after dinner. They strolled away from the house toward a small hill that overlooked the ranch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and purple. When they reached the top of the hill, Austin turned to face Emma, taking both her hands in his. "Emma," he said, and his voice was shaking slightly. "I have been thinking about how to do this, what to say, but I have realized there is no perfect way. There are just the words and the truth behind them. I love you. I fell in love with you somewhere between finding you on the prairie and bringing you home, and that love has only grown stronger every single day. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You make this ranch feel like a real home instead of just a place where I work. I cannot imagine my life without you in it anymore." He released one of her hands and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small ring. It was simple, a silver band with a small sapphire set in the center, and it was the most beautiful thing Emma had ever seen. "This was my grandmother's ring," Austin said. "My mother gave it to me before she died, told me to give it to the woman I wanted to spend my life with. Emma Grayson, will you marry me? Will you stay here with me and build a life together?" Emma was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but she was also smiling wider than she ever had. "Yes," she said. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I love you too, Austin. I love you so much." Austin slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply, passionately. And Emma kissed him back with everything she had, pouring all her love and hope and joy into that kiss. They were married 6 weeks later in a small ceremony in Pendleton, with Emma's Aunt Margaret and Uncle Thomas in attendance along with May and the ranch hands, and a few of Austin's friends from neighboring ranches. Emma wore a simple white dress that May had helped her sew, with wildflowers in her hair, and Austin wore his best suit and could not stop smiling. Aunt Margaret had been surprised when Emma had written to tell her about Austin and the engagement, but after meeting him and seeing how happy Emma was, she had given them her blessing wholeheartedly. "Your mother would be so happy to see you like this," Margaret had told Emma, hugging her tight. So loved and so settled with such a good man. After the wedding, there was a small celebration at the ranch with food and music and dancing. Austin danced with Emma under the stars, holding her close, whispering how much he loved her, how grateful he was that God had brought her into his life. That night, after all the guests had gone home or settled into the bunkhouse, Austin carried Emma over the threshold of the house, both of them laughing. May had moved her things into a smaller room, giving the main bedroom to the newlyweds, and had decorated it with candles and more wildflowers. "Are you nervous?" Austin asked as he set Emma down gently. "A little," Emma admitted, "but mostly I am just happy, so incredibly happy." "Me too," Austin said. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her tenderly. "I promise I will spend every day of the rest of my life trying to make you this happy." "You already do," Emma whispered, "just by being you." They made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies with patience and care. Austin was gentle, always making sure Emma was comfortable, always putting her needs before his own. And Emma felt herself falling even more deeply in love with this good man who had answered her desperate prayer on that hot August day. Life on the ranch settled into a beautiful rhythm. Emma took over much of the household management, working alongside May to keep everything running smoothly. She learned how to preserve food for the winter, how to mend clothes and make quilts, how to tend the vegetable garden and care for the animals. But she also learned how to help with the ranch work itself. Austin taught her how to rope cattle, how to recognize when an animal was sick, how to keep the account books for the ranch's business dealings. They expanded the ranch over the next few years, buying another 1,000 acres of land from a neighbor who wanted to retire and move back east. They built a second barn, expanded the corrals, and increased their herd to nearly 800 head. Austin's reputation as a fair and honest rancher grew, and he began to be asked to help settle disputes between other ranchers or to give advice to men just starting out. Emma started a small business of her own, using the sewing skills her mother had taught her to make quilts and clothes that she sold in Pendleton, and even shipped to larger cities like Omaha and Denver. The money she earned she saved carefully, wanting to contribute to the ranch's success, and also feeling proud to have something that was her own achievement. In the spring of 1881, nearly 3 years after they had met, Emma discovered she was pregnant. She told Austin one evening after dinner, leading him by the hand to their bedroom and closing the door behind them. "I have something to tell you," she said, unable to keep the smile off her face. Austin looked at her, his expression shifting from curiosity to hope. "Emma, we are going to have a baby," she said. "I am about 3 months along. I was not completely sure until I went to see the doctor in Pendleton yesterday with May." Austin's face lit up with pure joy. He let out a whoop of happiness and swept Emma up in his arms, spinning her around carefully before setting her down and dropping to his knees in front of her. He pressed his face against her still flat stomach and said, "Hello, little one. This is your papa. I already love you so much." Emma ran her fingers through Austin's hair, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "You are going to be such a good father." "I am going to try," Austin said, standing up and pulling her into a tight embrace. "God, Emma, I never thought I could be this happy. You have given me everything." "You gave me everything first," Emma said. "You gave me life when I was dying. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me love when I thought I would never be loved again. This baby is a gift, but you were the first gift." Their son was born in December of 1881, arriving a week before Christmas during the first big snowstorm of the winter. The labor was long and difficult, with only May and the doctor from Pendleton, who had managed to arrive just in time to help. Austin paced outside the bedroom door for hours, praying and worrying, until finally he heard the sound he had been waiting for, a baby's strong, healthy cry. May opened the door with tears streaming down her face and a huge smile. "You have a son," she said. "A beautiful, perfect son. And Emma is fine. Tired but fine. Come and meet your boy." Austin rushed into the room and found Emma propped up against pillows, looking exhausted but radiant, holding a small bundle wrapped in a soft blue blanket. She looked up at him with so much love in her eyes that Austin felt his own eyes filling with tears. "Come and meet Thomas Austin Hayes," Emma said softly. "Tommy for short." Austin sat carefully on the edge of the bed and looked down at his son for the first time. The baby had a shock of dark hair and was waving one tiny fist in the air, his eyes squeezed shut, his face red from crying. He was the most beautiful thing Austin had ever seen except for Emma. "Tommy," Austin repeated. "After your Uncle Thomas," Emma nodded. "He and Aunt Margaret have been so good to us. I wanted to honor him. And Austin for his middle name, of course, after his wonderful father." Austin carefully took his son into his arms, marveling at how small and perfect he was. "Hello, Tommy," he whispered. "Welcome to the world, son. You have a mama who is the strongest, bravest, most amazing woman I have ever known, and you have a papa who is going to do everything in his power to give you a good life and teach you how to be a good man." The baby's eyes fluttered open, and Austin could have sworn his son looked right at him. In that moment, Austin felt the full weight and wonder of fatherhood settle over him, and he understood in a new way what it meant to love someone so completely that you would do anything, sacrifice anything, to keep them safe and happy. Christmas that year was the best Austin and Emma had ever experienced. Aunt Margaret and Uncle Thomas came to visit, bringing gifts for the baby and staying for a week. May cooked an enormous feast. The ranch hands took turns holding little Tommy and making him smile. Snow fell softly outside while inside the ranch house was warm and filled with love and laughter. 3 years ago, I was alone on the prairie waiting to die, Emma said to Austin on Christmas Eve as they sat together on the couch watching the fire, Tommy sleeping peacefully in her arms. "And now look at this life I have. Look at what God gave me when I prayed for a miracle." Austin wrapped his arm around her shoulders and kissed the top of her head. "He gave me a miracle too, the miracle of you." Life continued in its beautiful rhythm. Tommy grew from a baby to a toddler, then to a little boy who followed his father everywhere around the ranch, trying to imitate everything Austin did. In 1884, Emma gave birth to a daughter they named Rose Margaret, after the flowers Emma loved and Emma's aunt. 2 years after that, another son arrived, Samuel, named after Sam, the ranch hand who had become like family to them. The ranch continued to prosper. Austin became one of the most successful cattlemen in the region, known for his integrity and his fair treatment of both his employees and his animals. He served on the town council in Pendleton and helped establish a school so that children from the surrounding ranches would not have to travel all the way to the city for an education. Emma's quilting business grew beyond anything she had imagined. Her work became known for its beauty and quality, and she began training other women to sew, providing them with a way to earn their own money. She opened a small shop in Pendleton, where local women could sell their crafts, taking only a small percentage to maintain the space and sending the rest of the profits to the makers. May remained with them, becoming honorary grandmother to their children and Austin and Emma's most trusted friend. The ranch hands changed over the years as men moved on to other opportunities, but there was always a core group who stayed, loyal to Austin and the home he had built. In the spring of 1890, Austin and Emma stood together on the same hill where he had proposed to her 12 years earlier. They were watching their 3 children play in the meadow below, Tommy now 9 years old and trying to teach his younger siblings how to skip stones in the creek, Rose running through the wildflowers with her arms spread wide, and Samuel toddling after them as fast as his little legs could carry him. "Did you ever imagine this?" Emma asked, leaning into Austin's side. "When you rode out to check your fence lines that day and found a half-dead woman praying in the dirt, did you imagine all of this?" Austin smiled and pulled her closer. I imagined finding my purpose, building a successful ranch, making something of myself. But this, all of this, you and the children and the life we have built together, this is beyond anything I could have imagined. This is better than anything I ever dreamed of. I prayed for a miracle, Emma said softly. I prayed for God to send me help, to send me someone, anyone, and He sent me you. He sent me the answer to every prayer I did not even know how to pray. He gave me love and family and purpose and joy. He gave me a home. We gave each other a home, Austin said. He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his just like he had on this same hill all those years ago. Emma Hayes, I love you more now than I did the day I married you, and I will love you more tomorrow than I do today. You are my miracle too. Emma stretched up on her toes and kissed him, and in that kiss was everything they had built together, everything they had survived, everything they hoped for their future. Their children's laughter floated up from the meadow below, carried on the spring breeze. The sun was warm on their faces. The prairie stretched out around them, vast and beautiful and full of possibility. Tommy called up to them from below. "Mama, Papa, come and see. I caught a frog." Emma and Austin laughed and walked hand in hand down the hill to join their children, their family, their life. The ranch house stood solid and welcoming behind them, smoke curling from its chimney. The cattle grazed peacefully in the distance. The horses whinnied in their corrals. Everything was exactly as it should be. That night, after the children were tucked into bed and the house was quiet, Austin and Emma sat together on the porch swing they had installed a few years earlier, gently rocking back and forth, watching the stars come out one by one in the darkening sky. "I was thinking," Austin said, "that we should teach the children about how we met. Really teach them, I mean. Tell them the whole story about how you were lost and praying and I found you. I want them to understand that sometimes miracles are real, that sometimes when you are at your lowest point and you cry out for help, the answer comes." "I think that is a wonderful idea," Emma said. "And I want them to know that miracles do not always look the way we expect them to. I thought a miracle would be a wagon appearing, or a town nearby, or even just finding water. I never thought the miracle would be a person, a man on horseback who would become my husband and the father of my children and my best friend. I never thought the miracle would be that I would find the other half of my soul lying in the dirt on my own property," Austin said with a small laugh. "God has a sense of humor sometimes, does not he?" "He does," Emma agreed, "but he is also faithful. He hears our prayers even when we think no one is listening. He sends us what we need even when we do not know what to ask for." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the kind of silence that comes when two people know each other so well that words are not always necessary. The night breeze was cool and carried the scent of the flowers Emma had planted around the porch. An owl hooted somewhere in the distance. The world felt peaceful and good. "You ever miss your old life?" Austin asked suddenly. "The life you had before in Pendleton, before everything fell apart?" Emma considered the question carefully. "I miss my parents and my brother," she said honestly. "I will always miss them and wish they could have lived to see this life I have now, but the rest of it, no. I do not miss being that person who was so afraid all the time, so worried about what people thought, so desperate to fit into a mold of what I was supposed to be. That life had to end so this life could begin. The pain I went through, the loss, even the terror of being lost on the prairie and thinking I would die, all of that brought me here, and I would not trade here for anything." "I am glad," Austin said simply, "because I cannot imagine being here without you." As the years continued to pass, the Hayes family became a fixture in their community. Tommy grew into a responsible young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did, and took naturally to the work of caring for the cattle and the land. Rose proved to have her mother's artistic talent and business sense, helping Emma expand the quilting business, and eventually starting to design her own patterns that became sought after across the region. Samuel was the adventurous one, always exploring, always asking questions, fascinated by everything from the workings of a steam engine to the behavior of wild animals. In 1895, Aunt Margaret passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 72. Emma grieved deeply for the aunt who had offered her sanctuary when she had nowhere else to turn, even though Emma had never made it to that sanctuary because Austin had found her first. Uncle Thomas moved to the Hayes Ranch after Margaret's death, unable to run his own ranch alone at his age, and lived out his final years surrounded by the family he loved, passing away in 1898 with Emma holding his hand and telling him how grateful she was for his kindness and love. May remained healthy and active well into her 70s, finally retiring from most of her household duties, but still insisting on cooking special meals for holidays and birthdays. She lived to see Tommy marry a sweet girl named Catherine from a neighboring ranch in 1899, and to hold her first great-great-grandchild, a little girl born to her own granddaughter in California. Sam, the old ranch hand, died in 1896, and Austin named their youngest son after him as a way of honoring the man who had been his first employee and a faithful friend. Jacob and James, the twin brothers, left eventually to start their own ranch together in Wyoming, but they returned every few years to visit and always spoke of Austin as the best boss they ever had. Miguel stayed until 1902, when he finally saved enough money to buy his own small ranch, and Austin helped him negotiate the purchase and get started. As the new century turned, Austin and Emma found themselves in their 50s, grandparents to Tommy and Catherine's 3 children, watching their own children grow into adults with lives and dreams of their own. The ranch had grown to over 5,000 acres, one of the largest operations in the region, and Austin had begun teaching Tommy all the business aspects so that his son could eventually take over. One morning in June of 1903, Emma woke to find Austin already up and dressed, standing by the window looking out at the sunrise. She joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind and resting her cheek against his back. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About time," Austin said. "About how fast it goes and how precious every moment is. 25 years ago this August, I found you on the prairie. A quarter of a century, Emma. It feels like yesterday and like a lifetime ago all at once." 25 years of miracles, Emma said. "Every single day with you has been a miracle." Austin turned in her arms and looked down at her, his green eyes still as bright and intense as they had been when he was 30 years old. There was gray in his hair now and lines on his face, but to Emma he was just as handsome as the day she met him. More so, actually, because now she knew the depth of his character, the strength of his love, the goodness of his heart. "I want to do something special to celebrate," Austin said. "Our 25th anniversary. Let us take a trip, just the 2 of us. We could go to Denver, stay in a fancy hotel, see the sights, have adventures." Emma laughed. "Adventures? We are in our 50s, Austin." "So what?" Austin challenged. "We are not dead yet. And I want to take my wife on a romantic trip because I never got to take her on a proper honeymoon." "What do you say?" "I say yes," Emma said, kissing him. "I will always say yes to you." They made the trip in August, timing it as close as they could to the actual date when Austin had found Emma. They traveled by train to Denver, which was now a thriving city, and stayed in the finest hotel. They went to the theater and ate at restaurants where other people cooked for them and brought them wine. They walked through the streets hand in hand like newlyweds, laughing and talking and marveling at how much the world had changed since they first met. On the night of their actual anniversary, Austin had arranged for a special dinner on the hotel's rooftop terrace. As they sat watching the sunset over the mountains, he reached across the table and took Emma's hand. 25 years ago today, I was riding across my land checking fences, thinking about all the work I needed to do, mentally calculating profits and expenses, and whether I could afford to buy more cattle, Austin said. I was successful by most measures. I had built the ranch I wanted. I was making good money. I was respected in the community. But I was lonely, Emma. So lonely I did not even realize it because I had convinced myself that work and success were enough. And then I saw you, on your knees in the dirt, praying for a miracle, and something in my heart just knew, this is her. This is what has been missing. This is why I built all of this, so I would have something to share with her. Tears were streaming down Emma's face. I was so lost, she whispered. Not just physically lost on the prairie, but lost in every way that mattered. I had lost my family, my home, my sense of who I was and what my life meant. I did not want to die, but I also did not know how to keep living. And then you came, and you did not just save my life. You gave me a life worth living. We saved each other, Austin said. That is what I believe. God heard both of our prayers, the ones we spoke out loud and the ones we held silent in our hearts, and He brought us together. He worked a miracle for both of us. Yes, Emma agreed. He did. And He continues to work miracles every day. Every morning I wake up next to you. Every time I see our children and grandchildren. Every sunset we watch together from our porch. Every moment of this beautiful life we have built. It is all a miracle. They returned to the ranch renewed, and even more deeply in love than when they had left. Their children and grandchildren greeted them with hugs and stories about everything that had happened while they were gone. The ranch had run smoothly in their absence, with Tommy proving himself more than capable of managing everything. Life settled back into its rhythm, but with a deeper appreciation for every moment. Austin made a point of telling Emma he loved her multiple times every day. Emma made sure they always had time together, just the two of them, even if it was just sitting on the porch swing in the evening. They went on rides together across the prairie, just like they had when they were courting, remembering and reminiscing and dreaming about the years still ahead. In 1908, Rose married a man she met when he came to Pendleton to establish a law practice. Emma and Austin liked him immediately, appreciating his intelligence and kindness, and the way he looked at their daughter like she hung the moon. The wedding was held at the ranch, and Emma found herself thinking about her own wedding almost 30 years earlier. How nervous and excited she had been, how certain that she was making the right choice. Samuel, true to his adventurous nature, decided he wanted to go to college to study engineering. Austin and Emma supported this decision wholeheartedly, even though it meant their youngest would move away to Lincoln for several years. They helped him prepare for this new adventure, and on the day they took him to the train station, Emma cried even as she smiled with pride. "He will come back," Austin said, holding her as the train pulled away. "He will go and learn and grow, but he will come back. This land is in his blood, just like it is in Tommy's, just like it is in ours." And Austin was right. Samuel did come back, 4 years later with a degree in engineering and a passion for using his knowledge to improve ranch operations. He designed a new irrigation system that made their water usage more efficient, built better corrals using innovative techniques, and even helped other ranchers in the area modernize their operations. As Austin and Emma entered their 60s, They gradually stepped back from the day-to-day running of the ranch, turning over more and more responsibility to Tommy while still being available for advice and assistance. They found themselves with more free time than they had ever had, and they used it to travel a bit, visiting places they had always wanted to see, spending extended time with each of their children and the growing number of grandchildren. But their favorite place remained the ranch, the land where they had found each other, the home they had built together. They spent hours working in Emma's flower gardens, riding across the prairie, sitting on the porch swing talking and laughing and remembering. Their love had matured from the passionate intensity of their early years into something deeper and richer. A love that was woven into every aspect of their lives, that needed no grand gestures because it was present in every small moment. In the summer of 1918, Austin and Emma celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. Their entire family gathered at the ranch. Tommy and Catherine with their now grown children, Rose and her husband with their 4 children, Samuel and his wife with their twin boys. Aunt Margaret and Uncle Thomas were long gone, but their memory was honored. May had passed away peacefully 2 years earlier at the age of 91, surrounded by people who loved her. But her legacy lived on in the beautiful home she had helped maintain and in the hearts of the Hayes family who had loved her. As Emma looked around at the celebration, at all the people who existed because she and Austin had found each other 40 years ago, she was overcome with gratitude. 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and already 2 great-grandchildren, with more surely to come. All these lives, all this love, all this joy, stemming from one moment when a desperate woman prayed for a miracle and a lonely rancher heard the call to help. That evening, after everyone else had gone to bed or settled into the guest rooms and bunkhouse that had been prepared for them, Austin and Emma once again climbed the hill where he had proposed. They moved slower now, their bodies showing the wear of 7 decades of life, but they still made it to the top, still stood together looking out over the land they loved. 40 years, Emma said wonderingly. We have been married 40 years, Austin. We have lived an entire lifetime together. And I would do it all again, Austin said. Every moment, every challenge, every joy, every sorrow, all of it, as long as it was with you. Do you remember what you said to me the night you proposed? Emma asked. You said you could not imagine your life without me in it. Well, I cannot even remember what my life was like before you. You are woven into everything I am, everything I think, everything I feel. You are not just my husband. You are the other half of my soul. Austin turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. And you are mine. You have been my partner in every sense of that word. You have worked beside me to build this ranch. You have raised our children with wisdom and love. You have made this house a home. You have been my best friend, my confidante, my lover, my everything. I found you when you were praying for a miracle, Emma, but you were the miracle. You were always the miracle. They kissed there on the hilltop as the stars came out overhead, 2 people who had loved each other for 40 years and would love each other until their final breaths. When they finally made their way back down to the house, walking carefully in the darkness with Austin holding Emma's hand to make sure she did not stumble, they could hear the sounds of their family inside, talking and laughing. We did good, did we not? Emma said, pausing on the porch to look up at Austin. We did better than good, Austin replied. We did amazing. We built something beautiful, Emma. Not just this ranch, not just this house, but this family, this legacy of love. That is what will last long after we are gone. I am not ready to be gone yet, Emma said. I want more years with you, as many as God will give us. Then we will take every single day He gives us and make the most of it, Austin promised, just like we always have. They went inside together, joining their family, soaking in the warmth and the love and the joy. And later, when they were alone in their bedroom, they held each other close, both of them thinking about that August day in 1878 when their lives had changed forever, when a prayer had been answered in the most unexpected and perfect way possible. Austin and Emma Hayes lived on the ranch until they died, just a few months apart in the spring of 1925. Austin passed first, peacefully in his sleep at the age of 76, with Emma holding his hand and telling him how much she loved him, how grateful she was for every moment they had shared. Emma followed him 3 months later, at the age of 69, unable and unwilling to live without the man who had been her everything for nearly 47 years. They were buried side by side on the hill where Austin had proposed, with simple headstones that read their names and dates, and below that, words that Tommy had chosen. She prayed for a miracle. He answered every prayer. Together they built a legacy of love. The ranch continued on, passed down through the generations, always staying in the Hayes family. Tommy's children and grandchildren ran it, maintaining Austin's standards of integrity and fairness, continuing Emma's tradition of supporting the women in their community. The original ranch house still stands, preserved and cared for, with the porch swing where Austin and Emma spent so many evenings still there, still used by their descendants. And sometimes, on quiet summer evenings, when the sun is setting over the Nebraska prairie and painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the current generation of Hayes family members sit on that porch swing and tell their children the story of how it all began. They tell about Emma, lost and desperate and praying for salvation. They tell about Austin, a lonely rancher who heard the call to help. They tell about love that grew from a miracle, about a family that was built on faith and hope, and the belief that God hears our prayers and answers them in His perfect time. And as the children listen, wide-eyed and captivated, the story lives on, passed down like a precious heirloom, reminding each new generation that miracles are real, that love can heal even the deepest wounds, and that sometimes, when we are at our lowest point and crying out for help, the answer comes in the form of a person who changes everything, who becomes our home, our heart, our happily ever after.